topic of astrology and our birth chart system. Where was this astrological birth chart system derived from? According to great texts, this great astrology and birth chart system was written during the Babylonian times, before 1800 BC. Now, this is not so much about the historical perspective of it. It was noted that it was written for the wealthy and the kings during the Roman Empire time to determine the destinies of our lives. And so we could ask ourselves this question. Here on earth, was astrology written and the birth chart system to simply dictate the destiny of our lives? It's a question that we now have to look into. As we see that from the time we're born, we all have a birth chart, we all have an astrological signs, and there were certain definitions and characteristics that were given for each sign. And if you look at your birth chart, you will see certain aspects of your lives that, as we look at astrology, we see how it affects our entire life. And you begin to look into astrology and see that, wow, was astrology simply written to just determine the shape of our lives? You hear of Greek mythology. The word mythology itself is a myth, which means that it's not the truest essence. It's just something that was written that's not truth. So we are actually using a system that's based on a myth and about like characters and plays in a book, and we use it to determine the entire essence and destiny of our lives. There's even points in the birth chart system that talks about our destiny. Is that how we really want to continue to live? Our soul came here, pretty much to grow, and pretty much chose this time to help shift the earth. And so let's delve deeper into this whole astrological system. We will look into the 12 astrological signs. Now there's different astrology, Vedic, Babylonian, modern, Hellenistic, that's not the point. We just want to tap into it a little bit. We start with, according to astrology, the first sign, which is in Aries. They give character traits of Aries as being this great warrior, self-appearance when you look at it. But then, for everything written, they have to have an adverse stage where Aries, can be impulsive. It's almost like they want us to continue living in a duality state just to affect our entire lives. Then we go to the second sign, Taurus, which is all about, us just having a structure, using our five senses, the stability of our lives. And we look at the adverse, which is stubbornness. We go to the third sign, Gemini, which is all about the communicative sign, Then the adverse is that, Geminis act in duality, and they could, it's like they don't know what they truly are, They could be this way one way, and then they switch to this way. Then you go into Cancer, which is like the intuitive, empathic, emotional. And then, you could see that when they say Cancers, it's almost like they get too emotional for the adverse. You could go into Leo, which just says Leos represents like the sun in our chart, person just who has all this strength and this courage, but then you see the adverse is being too egoic. You go into Virgo, which represents, just a person who's deeply connected with the earth and wanting to work and just help others, but you see that They could say the lower essence of Virgo goes into servitude. You could see or just being, someone who worries or, is all about data. You could see the Libra aspect is all about, community and just wanting to be there for each other. They all Libra, it's represented by the scales, always wanting to be fair and square. And you see that Libra, a lower nature is that they like fine things and they could, tap into maybe just eating stuff, sweets that's not good for them. You tap into Scorpio, which talks about, the great sign that could tap so deeply, intuitively. But then Scorpio, that verse is about power, money, and taboo topics. You could go into Sagittarius, which is like the higher mind. Then you could see that maybe Sagittarius, they're too optimistic and sometimes it's almost like they're living in the ethers or they're too blunt about certain things. You could go into Capricorn, which represents pretty much or structures here and just being all about work and trying to just accomplish so much. But then you see that Capricorn can also be represented by the devil once they get in an angry state. You see Aquarius, which is all about humanitarianism and brotherhood. And then you see that the adverse is about being detached. You see Pisces, which is all about compassion and unconditional love. And then you see also Pisces, they go within and, they have this certain secretive side about them. So the reason for all of this is to simply say, are we going to continue? Yes, astrology was written, and we see there's both good and bad aspects of it. But our soul knows what we're here to do. Are we going to simply say, continue to accept, oh, I'm a Gemini and, it's almost like I don't know what to do, or I'm this, Sagittarius, I live in the ethers, I kind of like, I'm not here on earth. The reason why I'm bringing this up is to stop letting these written texts, even religious texts, astrology is like another form of religious text where it was written a long time ago to determine the entire depiction of our lives. And as we're evolving and our soul truly knows what we don't just accept what your astrological and birth chart tells you. Tap into your own self, your own soul that knows what you're here to do. And if something in your chart or an aspect or whatever it is does not serve you, too valuable, let go of it. Don't say that that's what's written and I just have to flow by what it tells me. Go with what your soul and your heart tells you to do. So this is just pretty much looking at all of this historical text that was written to determine the entire destiny and depiction of our lives. We ought to not rely too much on this. We now are in the knowing age where we know what we're here to do. Stop being diminished versions of ourselves and truly become our most evolved self. Astrology is great, but there are certain features of this astrology that will leave you spinning in a circle if you just keep on saying like, this is my destiny and that's what my birth chart and astrology tells me and that's what I'm gonna go by. Your soul knows who you are and what you're here to do, because all of us are truly here to thrive.